All right, we're glad to know you're still there with us. It's still Kakaaki, the African voice, and we'll be looking at the presidential campaigns and how it has been coming. Since the ban on the campaign was lifted, we have some parties starting campaign, including the PDP, which actually first started. But it seems there's a bit of a slowdown on that, and some of the political party candidates are now resorting to town hall meetings like we saw a few days ago. But there's also controversy over why some presidential candidates have decided not to appear at that debate, if you like, or town hall meeting. So we have someone, a spokesperson of the PDP presidential campaign. This presidential candidate did not appear, even though he sent his running mates, and then going forward the campaign council in terms of the campaign.
Thank you. Perhaps I should start with how far have you gone with the campaign trail and how has it been?
Well, thank you very much. You do know, as somebody who also lives in this country, that the PDP is about the only party that have gone about conducting its official campaign, reaching out to Nigerians in different Borno for the purpose of interfacing with not only our supporters but with Nigerians in that particular state. Of course, you recall that we've been to Akwa Ibom, or we're also in Kaduna. After some time, we needed to simmer down and adjust the timetable for the purpose of attending to our brothers and sisters who were displaced by the flood. But in the midst of that, we were also able to reach out on what you may call mosquito campaigns to a number of Nigerians across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. And so for us, we are trying as much as possible to knowing that the power belongs to the people. And so we're interfacing with them almost every day at different state levels. In the course of your discussion of some campaign council, for instance, in Bauchi, the governor there is doing very, very well. He is somebody who has also contributed so much to the development of the PDP and is very much committed to the party. And so when individuals to win the election in position to continue to campaign for
I don't know. But before we get to the debate or the town hall meeting, which is actually what we want you to talk about, captured by some national dailies, where the G5 group, particularly one of them, never to support.
Well, let me tell you that we feel also very disappointed that that kind of statement is coming from a leader in the party who we believe have also benefited so much from the party. On the platform of the PDP, that was even when he came to national limelight. I recall when he appeared before the Senate and he was able to give account of his humble beginning, and for me, except he has forgotten that time he used to live in Games Village. We have had cause to eat on the same table with somebody I have enormous respect for. But his choice of words yesterday actually baffled a lot of us. You are very free democratically to say you are not going to support it. I don't think it's acceptable at the level of a leader as a governor. When you wake up and say you will never, and over your dead body will you support a Fulani, that is going above board. You are very free to say you don't want to support a presidential candidate. That becomes your democratic right. I don't think it will be within the bounds of democratic rights and constitutional freedom for you to an ethnic group that have also contributed to the growth of this country and then come out with the kind of words that came out from him. I wouldn't know under what influence. I wouldn't know what may have led to that, but I think that wasn't a sign of leadership. I wouldn't know what kind of anger. I do know he has a right to protect his people, but it cannot also be ascertained 100% that those he's accusing are the ones responsible. And in any case, let us even assume, without considering, that was involved in that attack. There are a number of individuals who have been found to be criminals across different ethnic groups in this country, whether in terms of 419, in terms of Yahoo, in terms of whatever, where you see different kind of crimes. That could be isolated. That does not mean that everybody who comes from that ethnic group is involved in that. You recall seem to be a profound, allow me to use that word, we also wake up. Anene is from my own part of the, if you remember Lawrence Anene and his son, but they were from my own part of the country. Will they wake up because maybe somehow they terrorized the country at one time as our daredevil criminals to say that I'm also an from a beer parlor? If it's from some small children who are possibly discussing, you can say, okay, that certain influence or lack of knowledge. But having risen to a level where you are a minister, you became a governor, and you have had the privilege of being a governor in two leading political parties, and your anger can come out to the extent of having to say that over your dead body. I think Governor Tom owes Nigerians, not even only the Fulanis, an apology for that particular statement. It doesn't matter. Let us assume, without considering, and God forbid, that Atiku doesn't win election, and so what? You must be able to look at all this whole thing. What you can see that makes you know that Atiku is actually very presidential. You cannot quote him in all these issues that the individuals are trying to haul attack on him. Yet he continues to respect them. He continues to. That is what a leader does. Even if you have anger in a party where you're even an APC person, cannot even say what Otom said. Not to talk of when you are a card-carrying member of the party, you're a leader, the flag of PDP is still flying in Benue State Government House. He's a candidate in this election on the platform of the party. And if you even say, I won't support even my party members, that is even better. I think by now you begin to rethink what he said.
Let me come in here, because it seems as if these men are not perhaps daring the consequences of their outbursts time and time again. Former Governor of Ekiti State, Ayo Fayoshi, has come out to say he's worried. He's perhaps looking at the days ahead for PDP very gloomy, because if this is not resolved, it can get messier. It is obvious to a lot of people who consider that the PDP is factionalized at the moment. What will be the mechanism for resolving this? Because a lot of people have said they don't want to stay. Perhaps expulsion will be the next alternative. What is the PDP afraid of in taking this, in this case, like a party should, in terms of party principles and alliance to a party?
First of all, let me correct the impression. PDP is not factionalized. For you to have a factionalized party, you must have a breakup of the National Working Committee.
So what does G5 governors mean?
No, that is disagreement. You can say, okay, look, this is what I want to do. When you want to talk about a faction, it means there's a faction led by a member of the NWC. To the best of my knowledge, all members of the NWC are still under one umbrella, under the leadership of Senator Ayu. And so that's is put by the side. The party is not factionalized. Democratically, ordinarily, there are individuals who are allowed to have a dissent. What democracy offers you is plurality of views, even within a given enclave, like in the case of the PDP. What has just happened is that it's becoming a handshake taken too far, beyond the elbow. These individuals who we have continued to recognize as leaders in the party, and we will continue to recognize them as such, have taken whatever that is making them to feel pained beyond what is allowed by that plural view in a democratic setting. They must be able to sit back and ask themselves, let us assume and I say God forbid, that Atiku Okowa didn't win election, in which case the PDP didn't win election, you have only denied Nigerians the opportunity to be able to have good governance that will change what is happening with respect to the APC. And that is what they are doing. If you end up making APC to come back with what we have seen in the last 7.5 years, how have your actions helped the country? And in any case, let them point out exactly what is paining them. The fact is that it is high time we began to deal with a number of issues. For a very long time, we have said what we have suffered, particularly the leadership of the party and the candidates of the party, is that the issue of the tragedy of a single story. They have continued to tell their stories and put IU at the center of their story. But I want to tell you this morning that IU is not the center of their story. Because they do know that even if IU leaves as the chairman of the party, that by the concern of the party, that the chairmanship will still remain in the north. And if Atiku, Ukowa, and other leaders of the party agree that in the course of time we need to do some form of realignment, but that is after we have gotten the president. Atiku is a candidate. Atiku, being a candidate is not an office. You cannot tell the north, okay, now I have given you a candidate, that's all. Let me even remind you that as we speak today, the chairman of APC is in the north. The president of this country of still APC extraction is in the north. The Labour Party, the presidential candidate is in the south. The chairman of the Labour Party is also in the south. Why are those main parties, why are those different parties not shouting? Needn't I also take you to whether NMPP or a number of other political parties? It is after you have done the election. That has always been the tradition. I recall in 2006, Ahmadu Ali was the chairman of the PDP. Umaru Musa Yar'Adua became the candidate of the PDP. Not until after that election, there was no realignment that was carried on. Because that alignment would recognize the fact that you are going to unsettle a whole lot of arrangements. At a time when you are going into a match, a very critical match, we are going into an election where we are standing against other opponents that, whether you like it or not, are also formidable in their own right. And the best thing you need to do is to first of all have a formidable house. And so if these individuals, these leaders, are indeed appreciative of the fact that they were nowhere before the party, you didn't know any one of them before the PDP. None of them was known before the PDP. The PDP, by the grace of God, some of them started at the local government level. The party gave them that license. The party made them to rise to the level of becoming ministers. And today they are still governors on the platform of the party, if not for anything, like it is said in my own part of the world, that if you are not able to eat the food because of the soup, please lick the soup because of the food. So in which case, it is not all the time that you get what you want. It is possible there is a very beautiful, well-pounded yam, but the soup may not be looking attractive. But when you look at that pounded yam, you have mercy on the soup, and then take it and enjoy it. Vice versa. So if indeed they have even anything against any of the other leaders in the party, for the sake of the party that have also contributed to their own growth and recognition nationally, one would have expected that they should be able to eat the soup or lick the soup because of the pounded yam. Okay. And that is what we expect of leaders. So we do hope that in the course of time, that they will realize that there comes a time where you have made your point and there is a need to become a statesman. And we do hope that they will do this. These are the individuals that we have had cause to cause so much respect, and will continue to do that. We hope and believe that they will see the need for us to have a formidable party going into the election. And I do hope that our Tom will apologize to Nigerians for that particular comment, because that is less than what a leader should say.
Okay, two issues I'm going to ask you from what you just said. If IU is not the center of their story, what is? That is one. Second, the parties you mentioned that also have their their chairman of their party and their presidential candidate from the same zone may not be having issues with that or raising eyebrow, because there was no promise made by anybody to step down if something happens before that. So probably what is really this ugly head in the PDP is the fact that there was a promise made before the door was thrown open for anybody to contest from any zone, and then that promise has not been kept. Secondly, is the PDP considering, taking away people who are in the house and still want to pull the house down?
Now, let me start from the issue of whether they want to take away people who want to pull the house down. That is left for the leadership to take a second look at. But at the moment, the leadership is still trying as much as possible to see how they can continue to reach out to this person, believing that in the course of time, they will understand that there is a need for us to pull together as a body and as individuals who have also benefited from the party. That is that about that. Then on the issue of whether somebody made a promise, I've told you that neither Atiku nor Okowa, nor even Ayu himself, is against the issue of the chairmanship of the party moving to the south. What we are saying is that even if that promise was made, assuming without considering, because I wasn't there when the promise was made, assuming that promise was made, and then you come back to realize that, look, executing this promise at this time will be injurious to the party. We have a Nigerian constitution where you have 369 members of the House of Representatives, and then there's 360 members of the House of Representatives and 109 senators. That becomes 469 members, representing the 360 federal constituencies and the 109 senatorial districts, coming together even after having what we call a consultation by way of public hearings to determine certain laws in our country. And sometimes in the case of constitutional amendment, they even took it to the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory for the purpose of having their buy-in in line with the constitutional provision. Yet, after that is done, you discover that there is a mistake. You still go back to say, no, we need to do a review and an amendment to make sure that you're able to meet up with the time. That is when you have even all this level of consultation. Not to talk of when just one person makes a promise and you discover that that promise is going to be injurious to the party. Even they themselves that are insisting that that promise be kept would have been saying, okay, you know what, this promise you made, if we do it now, it will be injurious to our party. Can we wait after the election? If individuals were not being a little selfish, have you also thought about the North? That let us assume, and I say God forbid, that Atiku didn't win the election to become the president, and you have taken away the chairman that at the moment is in the North, and you take it away. After that election, are you going to take that chairman back to the North? Now, I have also told you here before now that it is not just about are you stepping down that is the issue. That if it were to be just are you stepping down, we will not have any problem with that. That's not a big deal. But where the big deal is the movement of that seat of the chairman from the North to the South that is going to trigger a whole lot of ripples within the party, i.e., the next person in line constitutionally is Damagum, also from the North, which means you must also take a process to remove Damagum again. That becomes 2 casualties. Now, beyond these 2 casualties, once you now come to the South and you decide to bring these 2 to the South, you must also have another casualty. The national secretary of the party cannot be in the same region with these 2 persons, because these are the 3 top persons in the party. The chairman, and by constitution, the deputy national chairman from the same region where the chairman is from, and in this case, Damagum from the North, and then the national secretary being the 3rd in position. So if you move those 2 to come and meet the national secretary, who today is from the Southeast, of course you know you have also unsettled the North. We also need the vote of the people in the North. Then if you decide now you are going to move the secretary to the North, you also have the organizing secretary. So there are a lot of things that is going to move, which will not only unsettle the party, and don't forget, you are not just moving position, you are moving people. If the chairman comes to the South, you will not have to come and start another horse trading as to who you are going to pick to become the national chairman from the South. And at a time when you're preparing for a major election, are you expecting the candidates to keep quiet and fold your hand and say, okay, G5, go and give us anybody who is going to be the chairman, and you expect them to trust 100% that you are going to bring somebody who will also work with their
interest? Are they only members of the party as well? That's what people would argue.
And there are other members of the party who will also have interest. Now, when you want to say secretary move, are you going to also plead with Aniagwu, a man that was constitutionally elected? What if one of them goes to court to say, no, you took my position without what you are following the process? You recall what's happening in APC with respect to the candidates, particularly if not that the man in Osun did not win the election. The Supreme Court said he is not even a candidate because he was nominated by a man who ab initio is occupying the seat that he was not supposed to occupy by law. And you also recall when we even brought in Modu Sharif. Modu Sharif was not even elected as these people. He was just brought in by some persons who still belong to this G5 that you talked about. To remove Modu Sharif took the party a whole lot of stress for more than 1.5 years. That is somebody who was not even elected. Not to talk of now just removing somebody who is elected. If you think that it's easy for you, what did the man say? No, I was elected, you can't just take me away like that, and he goes to court. What happens to the party? And so that's why we are pleading, let us just wait. Once after the election, we can afford to gamble with all sorts of things. Because now we are in power, we'll be able to plead with people, you can make them promises. Now, what are you going to promise them? If you ask Senator Aniagwu, please accept that you're not going to be the national secretary of the party anymore, what are you going to be promising him? But if, for instance, we have won the election, and Atiku is the president, Atiku can go to him and say, you know, we need to do this balance. Secretary, don't worry, step down. We can make you chairman of social board, or we can make you to become a minister, or we can make you to become an advisor. There are things you can promise which you are more like trade by barter, which is allowed in political setting. Because they have risen to a level where you are not going to leave them in the wilderness. So in PDP, we like saying the truth. It's not a question of saying, so it means you want to settle it. Yes, people contest and get involved in the election because they also want to be relevant and contribute to the grit of the country. And so once you take away the angle from where they are contributing, you must be able to provide them another window, because if you have closed one door, make one window available for them to at least escape from whatever that is happening. But at this moment, nobody has that ability to be able to make the promise. And let me also tell you that as we speak in the PDP, there is only one position that is certain in terms of our zoning principle. Because the zoning principle of the PDP rests on three major planks. One, equity. Second, fairness. And then third is the issue of justice. And these six positions include, that is that of the president, that of the vice president, that of the chairman of the party, the secretary to the government of the federation, the senate president, and the speaker. As we speak, we have only one, and that's the national chairman. That's the one that is duly secured because he's elected. Atiku is a candidate. Okowa is a candidate. These other four, Senate President, House of Representatives Speaker, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, we don't have them. They are non-existent. So we can't be zoning them when they are non-existent. But once you win, automatically the President and the Vice comes in and stays. And then you can ask, okay, since people have come, the Chairman will go to the side where you have the Vice President. And in which case you come to the south, and then we'll ask, okay, what are the other three geopolitical zones that have not been taken care of? Because these three persons will now have to come from three different geopolitical zones. So you now look at the other three that is not taken care of. You zone the Senate presidency to one of the zones, you zone the speaker to another of the zone, and then you zone the secretary of the federation to one of the zones for the purpose of equity. That is what PDP is known for. Look at the 16 years of PDP. This balancing have always taken place. It's only in APC that you see that kind of thing, that the careless, you recall not too long ago, the Senate president and the deputy Rosiko, both of and the speaker of the House of Reps, they didn't even mind that they were coming from the same direction. But in the PDP, we do care, because you need to be able to put the fabrics that binds us together for the purpose of moving in one direction. Okay,
so beyond the zoning, let's look at the utterances and how this has fostered perhaps the fate of a lot of people who are thinking that PDP as an opposition may give a window of opportunity for some sort of change in direction in administration in 2023. Some weeks ago, it was also reported that Ayu at his country home during an event in Boko said and reminded Otom Makinde Bazu that he was enormous powers and could stop them from realizing their political ambition in 2023.
He said he could have.
Yes, but then we saw that comeback from Wike, and of course Otom's spokesperson Nathaniel replied and said he would not be able to affect the parliamentary wins for His Excellency Otom, regardless of however he tries to scuttle it. Now these conversations, this back and forth, isn't it healthier for him as a national chairman to withhold, perhaps refrain from festering this crisis? Because somebody would say perhaps the reason why Otom came out to say over his dead body was perhaps comments like this coming from the party chairman. Is
Ayu not of the same ethnic group, the thief with Otom? Is he a Fulani man? I've told you that for me, it could be, you can see it's democratic right to say he doesn't want to support a candidate. But to label an entire ethnic group and say over your dead body will you support a Fulani man, that is going above board. If you have political disagreement, just don't make it look as if somebody has come to take your child and then decide to be your president. And even if somebody did and happened to belong to an ethnic group, you don't label everybody in that ethnic group. For crying out loud, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, blessed memory, was a Fulani man. Didn't he do so well as a president for the little time he was around? So when you judge because you believe that the presidency of Buhari didn't do as much as was expected by Nigerians, and because you believe that he's a Fulani man and as such you just want to label everybody, that's not how to do it. There are a lot of very fantastic persons from the Fulani ethnic group. The same thing you have in a number of other ethnic groups, whether from the east, from the west, from the south, or from the central. It is not good. It's not even good for you to just decide to punish a son because of the sin of the father. Not to talk of want to punish an entire ethnic group because of one individual. Because within that ethnic group, there are a lot of individuals who are also doing exploits and helping to advance the cause of our country. We're already disturbed that our ethnicity and our diversity is very poorly managed by the APC. So we cannot now make comments that tend to support that very poor management of our diversity. We have said as a political party, and we have shown that in the course of our 16 years in power, that we believe in a country that is bound together by a whole lot of fabrics. And Atiku is coming on board to see how, by the grace of God, he is going to begin to touch these different fabrics for the purpose of putting us together as a whole. Because in one direction, just like a man who directs his urine to his pot, definitely the dividend that will come from that urine will be the form. So when you bring us together and get us to work together as a country, there is a whole lot of benefit, because in our diversity lie our strength.
Yes, diversity lies our strength. So that takes us to why your presidential candidate did not appear at the CDD town hall meeting on Sunday. That's generating a lot of controversy already, because some other candidates of the other parties did also show up, the APC. But even though your candidate, sent in his running mate, but Nigerians expected him to be there.
Well, let me tell you, thank God I was there, and I will take you through the issues. First of all, we got a letter sometime around the 25th of October addressed to our presidential candidate for the purpose of being part of this. And in case you have forgotten, our presidential candidate have attended almost every invitation extended to the party for him to come on board to say what we have to do. You recall he was in the LCCI meeting in Lagos, that's Lagos Chamber of Commerce in Lagos, and industry, of course. You also recall that even before that time, there have been a whole lot of individuals, whether the Arewa group and a number of other groups, that have invited him. But of course, he's one person. If you are drawing up your own timetable, another person is drawing up his own timetable. There are instances where even one or two groups, even youth groups, they have invited him, he attended. Atiku has never shied away from engaging with Nigerians.
But he didn't
on this particular issue, you also recall that not long ago we made it clear that our presidential candidate traveled to the United States of America, where he was engaging with a number of stakeholders for the purpose of securing their buy-in in terms of legally supporting our government to deliver a very free and credible election. One. Secondly, to begin an interface that will enable him, by the grace of God, when he becomes president, to start off from day one, i.e. in the area of managing our economy, in the area of addressing issues of insecurity, and of course in the area of dealing with the challenges in our education sector. These were the four reasons why Atiku traveled to the United States of America with a number of other persons from the country. And of course you do know that that was also very widely publicized. That meeting was not a one-day meeting. Once they finished that meeting, there was already an engagement before that time in Morocco, still along the same line, and that is in Africa. He traveled not until in the morning of Sunday, when this event took place. Atiku was still hoping that he was going to be able to rush back and be part of this particular town hall meeting. Note, it wasn't a debate, it was a town hall meeting. Now, when it became obvious that he was not going to be able to meet up, in order not to begin to look as if we were running away or that we were indisciplined, he activated a process that is very well known in law, that the president and the vice presidents are, like the Supreme Court have said, Siamese twins. You cannot separate them. And that is why the Constitution makes it that the moment you are elected as a presidential candidate, you must go and get your other twin, and that is the running mate. And say, look, after all, what they want to ask us is what our party want to do. And that in these questions is an interface with Nigerians. It is not a debate between presidential candidate and presidential candidate. It's an interface that the presidential candidate should come and say what they want to do, and that is what the two tickets want to do. And we got back to the organizer, say, look, since it might not be possible for our presidential candidate to meet up because he's now about leaving Morocco to come into Nigeria, and the last time I checked, the distance between Morocco and Nigeria is not a 2-hour flight. that says that was not going to purpose, will you allow the vice presidential candidate to come in? It was at that point, I didn't even leave Asaba until that Sunday, because this information as to Governor Okowa, the vice presidential candidate of our party, appearing was not there. I didn't even know about the invitation until that time. So I now have to also fly down. At about 4 o'clock, we were looking at the issues. Okay, what are they even discussing? And we discovered, no, it's not a debate. It's a town hall meeting where we are going to interface with Nigerians. All those political parties that are saying if a presidential candidate didn't come, they will not come. My sister, if they're asking you like I'm here now, telling you what's happening in the PDP, will I wake up and say, if APC didn't come? Interface with Nigerians is an opportunity to tell what you want to do for Nigerians. It's not an opportunity for you to go and do grandstanding with another candidate. Secondly, when initially they demonstrated, because they know that Okowa, just like Atiku, was going to carry the day, when they kept quiet, do you know that's the introduction? And they saw what was coming, that what was coming is not what they imagined. That there was an intelligence that was going to swallow what they were bringing on board. Do you know that some of the persons in the obedient group stood up and said they want to take away the man? And I asked them, you are not respecting your candidate. How can you, small children, you want to wake up and say you want to take the man away? How can you take him away? If the man doesn't want to continue, he is in a position to take that decision. But you know what we found out? We discovered that even 2 weeks before that time, Obi himself has engineered them that when they get to a place like that, they should be able to. Ordinarily, one would have expected him to rise up as a statement to say, no, please stop this noise. How can you, on a live program, you just started shouting? It wasn't a debate so that you say that your president is debating with the vice president. It's a town hall meeting where you are to come and say what you want to do to Nigerians, and Nigerians will ask you questions. When they go for their campaign rallies, do they take the candidate of other political parties? Do they not just go alone? So if Nigerians invite you anywhere to come and say what you want to do for Nigerians, please come there and say what you want to do. I'm sure sometimes some persons may even wish that other people don't come so that they will have a feedback. You recall the question the vice presidential candidate of the PDP asked them, which was more like a knockout.
Yes.
When they were trying to say PDP did this, PDP did this, just soft reminder. Say, please, sir, just May here, you were a candidate, a contestant in the PDP, and before that time, you were a very senior advisor in the government of Goodluck Jonathan, that of the PDP. You also served as a governor for 8 years when we have a PDP that is ruling at the national level, providing you that umbrella. So they didn't want that kind of knockout. What they want is where they will sit down and tell Nigerians all sort of lies, like the one they were trying to say that they are not spending money for campaign, and they were reminded that they were flying everywhere, including going to Benue with private jets, which does not run on water. And so, if they are running away from the fact that at any given time, as a party, we can stand on our record for the first 16 years, they do want where they can come and lie to Nigerians and tell most Nigerians who are just new what they don't know. We want them to bring it on. Anytime, let them come. Let's talk about what we did in the first 16 years, like Okowa reminded them, and let them tell us those things they are talking about, including the achievements of Kwakwaso in Kano. All those were done under the PDP administration. Mr.
Aniagwu, most thank you very much for your time on this and your thoughts as well. We've been speaking with the spokesperson of the Presidential Campaign Council of the People's Democratic Party, Charles Aniagwu, telling us why his candidate did not appear, and of course says the deputy, or rather the running mate, did well at that town hall meeting.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Indeed.